And John Barrowman, I mean, goodness, that is just such a stark warning, is it not?
Well, yeah, it's actually bleak, and it's terrible for the theater industry. It's terrible for the tourism industry. It's not only, and it's terrible for thousands and thousands of people who are relying on theater to be their income, being dancers, choreographers, directors, stage crew, wig people, performers, even the restaurants within the vicinity of theaters, as those of us who are involved in the theater and firm theater goers know that the theaters, the restaurants and all the businesses around will suffer greatly. So it's like a spider web that will grow throughout our society, and it will affect a lot of people. So yeah, it's dire. We're in a really big problem. And I know, Dan, some people have commented on me commenting, saying, why are you doing it all? You're in Los Angeles. Well, I'm in Palm Springs, California, to be exact. I'm stuck here in lockdown. I would have been in the UK at the moment working. I also have, a lot of friends who are in the theater, and I have a voice. And I am not concerned about myself. I am concerned about the theater industry. I'm kind of upset that people would attack online someone who is trying to save people's jobs, to save an industry that is vital to our economy. It's just, I'm flabbergasted.
Absolutely. No, I think you're such an important voice in this. And of course, John, you are due to star as the Wicked Queen in Bristol's Hippodrome production of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which opens on December the 5th, or at least it's due to. John, that will mean so many backroom staff and the sort of real heroes of the theatre behind the scenes who actually earn a pittance will all be out of work. So you're fighting for their jobs too.
Correct. You've got, if Bristol Hippodrome doesn't do Panto, I don't have the exact numbers, but you will have a lot of people who, again, will be out of work. You have theatres all around the country. About 70% of the theaters around the country are ones that make their money to survive for the rest of the year off of pantomime season, in order to, sustain themselves. And if pantomime doesn't happen for the it is going to wipe them out. They're going to be gone. They're going to shutter themselves. They're going to be gone. One of the things that part of the argument that I'm saying is the fact that people are saying they want to be able to go on holidays and they'll wear masks. And we see pictures of them filling up airplanes. I'm all for social distancing. I am all for wearing masks. I want this thing to go away. I want people to do what they have to in order to help make it go away. As a society, we need to do this together. However, if they're going to fill planes and put people on with masks, how is that any safer than filling a theater? And if people are going to make that choice to go on with a mask, and sit on a plane, or say they want to go on holiday, or go sit in a pub and social distance, why can't we do it in the theater?
Indeed, and I do wonder, John, if there do have to be exceptions made, because Andrew Lloyd Webber has kept the production of The Phantom of the Opera open in South Korea for the entire pandemic, and he's done it by not social distancing, because that's impossible in a theatre, using lots of other precautions. So yes, you mentioned masks, but also things like temperature checks on arrival to ensure that no one is over the 38 degrees, not selling food and drink, not being able to bring cash in, really carefully sanitizing the seats. Personally, John, I would say that is how we get our theatres open, and I would take the risk, and then it's down to consumers. Do you want to take that personal risk in order to keep the arts alive? And I would take that risk, and I am calling on the government to allow theatres to open without that 1 metre rule.
Yep, Dan, I'm applauding you on that one, because I'm so glad you brought it up. Andrew, Lord Lloyd Webber, Andrew, as most of us know him.
Your good friend, your good pal from...
Andrew is doing this in South Korea. You're absolutely correct, and it is working. And not only that, but they are opening the theater earlier, so people are getting in, getting settled. And Phantom of the Opera is running brilliantly in South Korea to packed houses. Why can't we implement that here? He's using his own finance, not the government's. He's using his own finance to test this system and to see if it works. Yes. And if it does, I, with you, think this is the route that there's got to be a solution. Okay, I'm complaining about the actors not getting their money. I'm complaining about, the difference between furloughed PAYE and self-employed. There's so many rules and ins and outs that don't benefit people, and we all pay into the same system. We all should be equal and all should get the same out of it. But the thing is, we got to have a solution, and you are absolutely right. Lloyd Webber's South Korea model is the solution to get theaters open.
Yeah, and no one's going to be forcing anyone to go to the theatre, but simply saying that if you want to go, then you're going to have to take these precautions, but you will be seated next to people. Because the problem is, John, the theatre operates on such tiny margins anyway. If you can't fill a theatre up, it is virtually impossible for these arts and entertainment organisations to survive, because they do need to pack people in. It's the only way it makes economic sense.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things, I could rattle off all the figures that I know, and it would just be a bunch of figures for people to hear, but you're absolutely right. We need full houses, or we need full houses in order for the shows to be sustained with all of the running costs and all of the salaries and all of the musicians that are playing in the pit. We absolutely do. So if you're a theater lover and you want to take that, all the precautions and go, I with you would be there doing it the same. I mean, I'm actually, it's frustrating because David Ian, who's a producer that I know really well, David and I are in talks about, the possibility of bringing back in, either a tour or bringing it back into the West End. And the one thing that, you're finding is a good thing in a way, because the theater has been kind of empty this year. All of the tours that were meant to be running around the country have moved into 2021, if we are allowed to go, is going to be jam-packed with theater all around the country. So if it is, and we're allowed to do it, we should support that, because arts are a great way, any form of the arts, to show diversity, to show inclusivity, and also to show about how to get along. It's life skills through theater. It's a must.
Yeah, and I think as well, theatres should give members of the public an option to, for example, pay a little bit extra for tickets now, for example. That's, I think, a sensible idea, because there will be a lot of people out there who, if they can afford to, are prepared to support theatre. I was really interested, John, as well today. You made an interesting point, which I hadn't thought of before, about comparing the LGBT community's response to the AIDS crisis in the 80s to how we're now dealing with coronavirus today. And your message seems to be that, in fact, the general public could learn from the LGBT community at that time, when actually it was about self-protection. Can you just explain a little bit about what you meant?
So in the 1980s, I was in the late 80s in the UK, working. Anything Goes was the first show that I did at the Prince Edward Theatre. So my little home was Soho. And the AIDS crisis was happening in America, it was happening in the UK, it was happening all over the world. And a lot of people in the government were turning a blind eye and pretending that it was not happening. So the gay community, we as gay men, with help from the rest of the community, took it upon ourselves to protect ourselves, rather than wait for other people to realize that this was a crisis, because people were looking at it going, oh, it's only happening to gay men. It's just happening to them. Like, people are looking at countries and saying, oh, it's only in China. Oh, it's only in this state of Arizona. Oh, it's happening. A way to contain it and control it. And that was to protect ourselves by using condoms, by handing them out at pubs and bars, restaurants, clubs, giving them to friends, and also by treating everybody as if they were infected with the disease. Yeah. So if I met you in the street, and let's say you and I were much younger and we were single and we thought, I'd like to go on a date.
This is getting exciting.
But I would have, in my head, you would have had the disease. In your head, you would have looked at me as having the disease. Therefore, you protect yourself.
Yeah.
And people are saying, well, what about the marches and people who are doing all that and not wearing the mask? I don't have the control over people who don't want to wear masks. However, as an individual and someone who is about practicing my social and my, kind of good etiquette with that, I would carry extra masks with me if I had them. And I would then say to people, if I were in a march, here, put a mask on. My nephew marched for the Black Lives Matter group, and he marched on behalf of myself and Scott, because I can't go into the marches because I'm looking after my mom and dad, and I want to isolate in order to be able to go to them to take care of them. But he took masks and handed out masks and all that kind of stuff. So there are ways to do it, and if we treat everybody like they're infected, that means, and I'm going to say it, everybody wear a damn mask. That will help.
So it's almost like ultimate personal responsibility in order to allow us to have the freedoms that we need to get things like theatre.
But isn't that what life is? And isn't that what being a good human being and a citizen and a loving, caring citizen of this world is? It's taking personal responsibility and trying to help other people.
Yeah, and I guess if you are a member of the gay community, which I obviously am, we were very used to the safe sex message, and it did just become part of our lives. And it did, by the way, save me. There are parallels.
And listen, there's people on, certain social media platforms after I said that public, and I'm saying it again with you, and thank you for allowing me to say it, Dan. Why should we listen to the gays and the hate that came through? Well, you should listen because we are people who are concerned about the welfare and we want to help. And you should listen. Listen, we've been through this. We know how to help and to contain.
Indeed. What a powerful message. John Barrowman, all-round entertainer. Actually, John, I just have to ask you very quickly, Dancing on Ice, is it going to come back with all of this going on?
They haven't said no. I am planning on I'm planning on being back in the UK, ready just in case Panto or Dancing on Ice comes off. I'm sure that ITV, being the brilliant network that they are, they will work it out to make sure that it happens. A little bird told me they're already looking at people as skaters, so that's all I'll say.
Well, we need you on that panel. All-round entertainer, Dancing on Ice judge, star of Panto, we hope, in Bristol, the Bristol Hippodrome from December the 5th. That is John Barrowman. In just a couple of minutes.